Do you have a need for speed? Whether you want to improve your race time or just have fun, the Run Marana Series has something for everyone. Choose your challenge and sign up for one of the 5 races held throughout the year. Visit maranaaz.gov/run to sign up. Your speed, your run, your town.
People lose their valuables every day simply because they forget to lock their car doors. Don't be another statistic. Remove all your belongings anytime you leave your car, including valuables and weapons. This is a message from the Marana Police Department, reminding all residents to lock it or lose it.
Welcome to Real Talk with the Town, where I sit down with the Marana staff to answer your burning questions about our beautiful community. My name is Terry Rozema, and I'm the town manager for the town, so let's get started. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Real Talk with the Town. My name is Terry, and I am your host, and today we have 2 special guests in the studio. Today we have Heidi Lasham. She is our CIP division manager, and we have a returning guest. Actually, Heidi's a returning guest as well.
Absolutely.
But Jane Fairall, our town attorney. Say hello to our guest, Jane and Heidi.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So we're going to be talking about a topic that came up as a result of a number of people in our community being concerned about work that's being done on their roads within their residential neighborhoods. And some of them are a little bit upset about it. So we're going to get to that in just a minute. But before we do that, let's do an icebreaker and let's talk about the holidays. We just finished up Thanksgiving, coming into the rest of the holiday season. What's your favorite part about this time of year? Heidi, go.
My favorite part is actually on Christmas Eve. Our whole family goes in to Winter Haven. We go and walk the streets and look at all the lights and see what everybody's done to their houses.
That is an impressive sight to see.
It is.
And one that is a staple in the Tucson area, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Jane, how about yourself?
I think just in general, I enjoy all the gatherings, just different holiday parties with family or with friends or work, all of those things, because a lot of times we don't get the chance to kind of unwind with each other in that way, and I enjoy that the most.
Well, you stole mine, because that's my favorite part too, Jane, is just getting together with family, with friends, even coworkers. It's just a good time to hang out and have those kind of celebrations and parties and interact in a way that you don't always get to do. So, but that's not what we're here for. We're not here to talk about the holiday season. We're actually here to talk about a concern from our residents. And this actually came in from a number of different sources. And it's about people putting in, specifically, it came about as a result of people putting in fiber optic. So the question was, who is authorizing people to do this? Why? First of all, let's start off with, why is the town allowing this to happen? People to come in and dig up the streets, that's what was said, dig up the streets and put in these awful fiber optic lines and mark up our streets and make it ugly. Who's allowing this, Heidi?
Well, actually, when a company comes in, they actually go through what's called the right-of-way process. So they go online and fill out a form and send in plans of where they're going to be putting it, if it's behind the curb, is it in the street, wherever they're planning to do it, and we review their plans and then go through the rest of the process of them paying for their permit, meet them out in the field, and then the next part, which some folks have talked about too, is the paints on the ground, is Blue Stake comes out, and they'll come out and paint lines all over the pavement that show where, say, water is, where sewer is, electric, gas, so that when this company comes through and puts their utility in, that they don't hit the other infrastructure in the way.
Okay, so this is obviously a safety method, right?
Absolutely. The paint on the ground is something that helps the contractor when they're in there digging so that they don't hit obstacles underground.
All right. So why in the world, why don't we just tell them no? You can't use our right of way. You can't put anything in our right of way. It looks pretty. We got it all paved and looking nice, and we don't want anybody to mess it up. Why don't we just tell people you can't do that?
Well, then you wouldn't have competition you wouldn't have your phone service, you wouldn't have cable, you wouldn't have all those amenities that everybody likes today.
Okay. So it's a little bit about the competition of services and new services that come up.
Competition and also expansion. I mean, Marana's a growing community, and with new homes coming in, we have to do upgrades to various different infrastructure like gas and water and sewer.
All right. So, Jane, let me turn to you for a minute because one of the things that was mentioned in an email is what rights do the citizens have? What rights do we citizens have in saying, no, you can't come into our neighborhood?
In most cases, the permitting process and the rights are granted by the town because it's the town's right of way and it's the town's property that's being used for these types of installations. So the right is granted by the town and not by the neighborhoods themselves. It would be different if there was, for example, some communities have an HOA that owns the streets themselves. In that case, that would be the neighborhood's decision about what they were going to allow or not allow in their streets. But it's up to the town with our property.
Okay. I want to get a little bit more specific here because we're kind of talking about this on a macro level. I want to get down to a micro level here and talk about a specific company that is going through neighborhoods right now. And they're going to be doing this for quite some time. Over the course of the next several years, they're going to be going through neighborhoods and they're going to be putting in fiber optic lines. And that company's name is Ting. Is it okay if we say their name?
Yes.
I think I just did. So
yes, they have an agreement with the town that's a public document.
Okay, well, there you go. So, Jane, tell me a little bit about how this whole thing with Ting came about and why we entered into an agreement with them to allow for them to put their fiber optic lines throughout our community.
Sure. Ting contacted the town probably spring or summer of 2022. And came to us and said, we are a growing company, a growing internet service provider, and we would like to provide service to the citizens of the town of Marana. And so that's how our relationship with them started. They have their services being provided in other states across the country, I think in Virginia, in California, in Colorado, just to name a few, and some other communities in Arizona as well. And so they are trying to provide another option to citizens and consumers for broadband internet access and subscriptions. So we started the process of just talking to them about what it is that they wanted to do in the town of Marana. And they described wanting to have basically like 4 areas of the town where they would build out by that I mean installing fiber in the right of way to provide internet access. And they were requesting a license agreement from the town in order to use the town's right of way. And a license agreement is a real property right. Mm-hmm. And so we negotiated an agreement with them over the course of almost more than a year, I think, to make sure that we protected the town and the town's citizens' interests. And so that's kind of how we got involved with Ting. They, as a part of the license agreement, they do still have to get the right-of-way permit that Heidi was speaking about earlier. So it's kind of a 2-step process. We worked out the license agreement, which went to council, I think, on August 1st of this year for approval. It lays out all of their responsibilities for insurance, for repairing the town's property if they damage it, what fees they have to pay in order to use the property, all of those things, and then also says that they have to go through a right-of-way permitting process once they're ready to start construction, and then that's where Heidi's team kicks in.
Okay. Now, you brought up a number of things that raised a few questions for me. I'm going to jump back to you to ask you a couple of questions, but before I do that, I'm going to jump over to Heidi because Jane just mentioned that they're responsible if they cause any damage. But damage is defined as what? And let me also ask you, is damage defined as markings on the road with spray paint?
Actually, no, damage is not markings on the roadway. Damage is defined as if they are disturbing the right-of-way. So if they were to jack and bore under the ground and they hit another utility, or if they dig through and they break the sidewalk, break a curb, damage a panel in the driveway, any of that sort of damage, they would have to come back and fix on their own dime. The town wouldn't pay anything for the damages that they do.
Okay. So you just mentioned jack and bore. Can you explain that? Because people said, they're digging up our streets, they're making it ugly. What's the difference between digging up the streets and jack and bore?
Digging up a street is basically what you said. You take a piece of equipment and it's actually an opening of the roadway, whereas you can see down into the hole. Whereas jacking and boring is a smaller operation where you have, say, a pit at one end where you're taking equipment and pushing pipe through the ground, and it'll come out at a certain point that they are trying to hit on the other end, which would have another pit over there. So everything is underground. There is no openings of any of the driveways or anything like that. It just goes smooth sail underneath if all goes well.
Yeah, so I can actually speak to this personally because it just happened in my neighborhood with Southwest Gas. They came through and replaced all their lines, and they did a jack and bore project in my neighborhood. And, it's a little bit inconvenient, slightly, but not significant. And, there were a lot of marks on the road, but they washed away. And I have to admit, they did a stellar job of patching the road and making it all nice and smooth when they were done. So that's my own personal experience. Your mileage may vary, but that's my experience.
Property crimes are often the result of opportunity. You can take action to help reduce crime by starting a Neighborhood Watch program. Neighborhood Watch serves as a guide for more eyes and ears in your neighborhood. Contact the Marana Police Department Community Resource Unit at 520-382-2055 for more information.
Whether you're starting a business or looking to expand in Marana, our Town Development Services staff will walk you through the steps towards success. Learn about business licenses, development permits, business loans, local and state resources, and more. Let's get to work. For more information, visit maranaaz.gov/business development.
Why would you want to work for the town of Marana? Well, let's hear what our employees have to say.
I feel like working for the town of Marana makes you feel like a person, not a number.
I really wanted to work for the community where I lived.
I have children that play in the parks.
Working for a public entity, it's kind of a sacred trust. I like that. It's an honor to serve.
The town's mission is to provide 5-star service for a thriving community.
To me, 5-star service comes from within. It's a drive to make your surroundings a better place.
Providing community service like the Founders Day Parade, the swim lessons, clean drinking water.
Of course, the benefits are great.
I get sent to seminars and conferences, and
Town of Marana compensates vacation.
We do have an amazing gym facility, alternate schedules as well. Our employees are also able to telework.
My supervisor in particular really cares about our work-life balance.
My colleagues are fun. It's just a fun place to work.
We have a culture of friendship.
The people in general that work here and apply here all want to make a difference in their everyday life for themselves and for the community.
Let's make an impact on our community. Visit maranaaz.gov/careers and apply now.
But Jane, I'm going to jump back to you here a minute, and I want to talk about this license agreement thing. So as a town attorney, being one of those people that goes to school for a very long time to be able to read documents and understand what's in the documents, or to write documents, prepare documents to protect the town, what are you specifically looking for in a license agreement with Ting that people might not be thinking about, that protect the town or whatever? What are you looking for? What are you thinking about?
Well, one of the main things is to identify what it is they can and can't do under the terms of the agreement. What are they allowed to do in our right-of-way under this license agreement? And in this case, it's to install fiber for internet access. It doesn't allow them to provide other types of service or do other types of things. That's one of the main things, is to limit what their permissions are of that they can use our property for. Another thing is to address what's going to happen if you do damage our property. What is our recourse? How will that be handled? In this case, they have to restore any right-of-way to the condition it was in before they went in and did the work. And there are some very specific specifications in the right-of-way permitting process that I can't really speak to, but that Heidi and her team worked with Ting to make sure that it said what we wanted it to say. And if they don't restore it to its condition prior to them doing work, to make sure that the town has the ability, in this case, we can do it ourselves and then bill them plus a 15% contingency extra for the work that we had to do in administering this. I also make sure that they're providing us with insurance so that if there are any claims made by third parties against the town because of the work that Ting did, including any claims from any of their customers related to the service that they're providing, that Ting would be the ones that would be responsible for that. So anyone can sue the town, but if someone did sue us because of something Ting did, Ting would be responsible. The town would turn to Ting for indemnification, and so we need to make sure that those provisions are in the agreement and that they have adequate insurance to cover those things, the right types of insurance. So we worked with our risk manager to make sure that we had all of that in place. And just mainly you're trying to think of what happens if things go badly. You start off...
That's kind of the world you live in, isn't it, Jane Fairall?
Yes, it is. The relationship is good to start with.
Right.
But we have to try to think about what if all of these things go wrong?
Yeah.
What's going to happen? So those are the kinds of things that we're looking at in the license agreement.
Yeah. And so, just kind of thinking back on this, because I was here when they first approached us, this is over the course of this time, it's been a fairly heavy lift, right? I mean, there's been a lot of work that has gone into this by your team, the legal team, a lot of work that's gone into it with the public works team. So it's not something we take lightly. So why in the world, I'll pose this to either one of you, I guess, can jump in and ask this, but why would the town even entertain this? What's really, is there a benefit to the town itself? Is it a benefit to the community? What's the angle?
I believe from my perspective and discussions that I've had, we believe it's a benefit to the citizens that are consumers of internet in the town to have additional options for internet service. It can sometimes drive costs down or provide better service. So that was the number one thing I think that the town, as the government agency, was looking at. This is something that could be good for our citizens. And I think also just in general, so there are areas of the community, and not just in Marana, but the greater Pima County or Southern Arizona region that need internet access. And I think that the more that we can participate in that access and getting it spread out around Southern Arizona. I mean, we had a presentation last week from Pima County with their Miracle Mile project. Is that what it's called?
Middle Mile
project to expand internet service.
Miracle Mile, totally different.
Yeah,
We're totally different thing.
Yeah.
We're not going to cruise the Miracle Mile. So
yes, and this isn't specifically a part of that middle mile project, just to be clear, but just broadening access to internet service, I think, is a good thing for the community.
Well, and did you want to add anything to that?
I was just going to agree with that having healthy competition is always good, because I don't know about you all, but my bill is upwards of $200 when it comes to when you bundle it all together. So to have somebody that could bring some healthy competition and maybe drive down some prices would be great for all of our community members.
Yeah, it's interesting what happens when your bill goes up to $200 all of a sudden, and you call them and you say you're going to go with somebody else, and suddenly drop it down to $100.
Right.
Like, wow. How did that happen? Competition.
Exactly.
Competition, right? But, to your point, Jane, about, providing access to everybody, because we now live in a world where people almost can't live without their internet access, right? They have to have it almost as badly as they do, water and sewer and electric anymore.
Right, because when you go to the doctor's office, they're like, here's all the forms. You need to fill out everything online before you come in. Go to the portal.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, so all of that is something that's really necessary, and to be able to provide that across our community is very important. All right, so another point here, and I think that this could play a part in this. You guys tell me if I'm wrong, but technology changes, right? And
Absolutely.
What used to be very common was cable, right? You had cable TV, but now high-speed fiber optic is the wave of the future and the way that things are going. So does that play a role in this, the upgrading of services and technology? Just like Southwest Gas had to upgrade their piping in my neighborhood. I mean, is this kind of similar? Is there a parallel there, do you think?
I mean, I'm not an expert. That'd probably be something for technology services director to speak to more specifically. But I do think that this is the fiber internet is kind of the newer edge of internet service. And so the hope is certainly that it's faster, it's, more efficient, all of those things. So I think it is kind of more on the cutting edge. Under the license agreement, Ting can also put in conduit that they might need for future uses, as long as it's in compliance with the agreement and what they're allowed to use it for. But it allows them to think ahead and think of what else they might need to be doing with fiber in the right of way. So I think it does play into just changing technology and being ready to provide that changing technology to Marana and to the world.
All right.
Well, and I think having, too, that extra speed is going to help, because nowadays a lot of people are switching to streaming services as well versus having that cable. So streaming and all the kids and their video games and all the apps that you're downloading, everybody just seems to have a greater need each time. Everybody's hooked up to their phones everywhere, looking at their apps. What's the weather? Where am I headed? How am I going to get there? Let's load that map.
Right. And now with Ting, you have 1 million gigabytes per whatever. I don't even know. I don't speak that language. But anyway, so let me ask you this. Once Ting goes in and they get their stuff in the ground, are we done? We never have to worry or see this happening again, people working in it right away? Or are we going to... Is this going to continue to happen?
I mean, Ting is one company that's coming into the right-of-way, but there's people that come in constantly into our right-of-way, getting right-of-way permits and having to upgrade their facilities, like we spoke about. You yourself spoke about Southwest Gas had to come in and upgrade their lines. So you're going to have various utilities that are going to continuously, it's not going to be back to back to back to back, but as things break or things need to be upgraded, people will be in the right-of-way once they go through the right-of-way process.
Cost of progress, Heidi? Is it just the cost of progress? I
think Ting is cost of progress. I mean, I think that's a fair statement. But I mean, just like our communities are expanding, so I mean, your services have to expand and keep up with that too.
Very good.
And there may be other internet service providers or other technologies that we haven't even thought of that might come in and want to use the public right-of-way. And I think also earlier I alluded it to being the right-of-way being town property. But it's not town property in the same way like this building is town property that we're sitting in, or town hall is town property. The public right-of-way is for the use of the public. And part of that is for the use of utilities and those kinds of things that serve the public. That's partly what it's there for. So it's exactly for things like water and sewer and in today's day and age, internet and fiber and cable and all of those things.
Well, that brings up an interesting point. So it's the public's right of way. It's their right of way. So what if an entire neighborhood, they had, let's say, 200 residential units in their neighborhood, and all 200 of them signed something saying, we don't want them in our neighborhood? What would the town do with something like that, Jane?
Well, as far as legally speaking, the town still is the controlling entity of the public right-of-way. So we have the legal rights still to decide. But I think that would certainly be something that the town and the town council would, take into account in their attempts to balance what is the highest and best use of this public right-of-way and for who.
Great answer right there, Jane. Great answer. All right. So hopefully, and we had, like I said, 3 or 4 different emails or messages that came through various people about this issue. So I'm hoping that we covered all of the things that were talked about, and hopefully this clarifies for a number of people this issue. But in closing, is there anything that you think you need to add to this discussion, Heidi?
I know that it came up too about all the paint on the ground and everybody being upset that, this company's coming in and marking up all their streets. Just rest assured that in due time, when monsoons come or a winter rain comes, that'll wash away. That'll be restored back to the way it was before all this started. So,
and I can speak from experience that the Arizona sun can melt the paint off of just about anything. So,
yes, it can.
Yeah. Jane, anything you want to add in closing?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, thank you, listeners, and thank you for sending in your questions. We greatly appreciate it. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Until next time. Submit your questions by visiting maranaaz.gov/realtalk, and we'll answer them right here. To receive notifications for new releases, remember to click subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Also, please follow the town on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay up to date on current news and events.